Okay, so welcome to another episode of the New Labor Movement Show. I am one of your hosts, Troy.
And I'm Ian.
All right, back for another week of local law, labor, and politics. So a lot has been going on, short space of time. Primaries are complete.
Woohoo!
I don't know about woohoo. All right. We just wanted to take a look at a couple of the races and see some of the things, or I guess patterns or trends we saw going forward. And now the next big thing up is November.
Yeah, the big one in November.
Yeah, because I'm looking at some of them even like up to date, like updated as far as like today. And you see some of the races, the margin of victory was, I guess, so large that they already got a check mark and declared them a winner. Some of the other ones.
AOC, she slayed her competitors.
Yeah,
so,
she knocked it out. And that was one of the ones I was looking at to see, because this is always my thing. The person who goes out and is actually doing stuff to fight for the things that you say you want and you need, are you doing what is necessary to then support that person? So that's my biggest thing.
And they obviously showed that their support.
Right. Because if you have a person and now I go out and I fight for you to make sure, you know, that the things that you say you want, I'm fighting to get those things. Of course, I can't get it while these other people are blocking me. Now I need you to come and remove the things that's blocking us from getting towards our goal. I'm already out there fighting for you. I'm taking the shots in the front, but I need you to remove the people in front of me. You can't sit there and blame somebody for not getting things done if you don't do your part. So I definitely wanted to show, okay, listen, you showed you're going to go out there and fight for us. Now I'm going to be able to go and show I'm going to do my job and move out the people that's blocking you from getting us to what we want to get done. That's why I say definitely when a candidate goes out and fights for whatever it is, like the people, I'm just going to say the people, labor, whether it's healthcare, whatever, they go out and fight for that. You have to now go out and reward them by making sure you show your support and get them back in. Nobody else.
And she did that. She obviously got the support. I mean, she was one of the only candidate, if not the only candidate, that at that night they proclaimed her that she won.
Well, there were some. I mean, she's the most notable.
Right.
So I'm looking now. I see Yvette Clarke, and
right, Yvette Clarke was right.
It looks like she locked up her victory. Yvette Clarke was the establishment candidate, Adem Bunkadeko. I said that much easier before. Adem Bunkadeko. He was the next challenger up, but she locked the victory out with him. I mean, they both supported us, and we appreciate that, you know, definitely. But she was able to win that victory. And I mean, as far as some of the things I was seeing on the debate, sometimes, just because someone is an incumbent doesn't mean that you have to change for the sake of change's sake.
Right.
You still have to look at what they've done, and if they've done enough to, you know, show me that you're moving towards a direction that's for helping the people, I have no problem. And honestly, that's what you want to do. I want to be able to reward or support somebody that's doing the right thing. If you
I mean, you can't call her out. She supported our union, and she has supported the neighborhood that she lives in. Yeah. So she's not a loss.
Right.
Anything else?
This one, I think, has already seen a check mark, and I'm guessing this was a Republican primary because she's a Republican candidate. This one, Nicole Melikotakis, she beat out Joseph Caldera. We weren't even following this race, but I just looking at it because I know it came up. And to me, when I see that name, it always causes an issue because this is what I would wonder too, how much people know about this. I'm not voting for nobody that crossed somebody's strike line without some type of explanation as to why you did it.
Right. Exactly.
What kind of values are you saying you stand for as far as workers if you're crossing strike lines?
None whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. None whatsoever. Okay, so this is one that's no check mark because it's so tight and close to call. And this one was everyone in this primary, especially they went on New York one and they all wore a button supporting us. Carolyn Maloney's race in the 12th congressional district. So it's Carolyn Maloney right now at the top. Carolyn Maloney, Siraj Patel, Lauren Ashcroft, and Peter Harrison all wore our buttons during their.
And that race hasn't been called yet.
Nah, still close. So the two top runners in that is Carolyn Maloney, look like she's at 41.7%, and Siraj Patel is at 40.1%.
Ooh, that's close.
It's tight. Yes. This was the 15th congressional district Democratic primary, where Richie Torres is ahead in that race, followed by Michael Blake and Ruben Diaz. So this is one. And also I want to note Samilis Lopez, who was, I believe this might be her first time running for office, if I'm not mistaken. Very, very strong, progressive, definitely a fighter. And she did a lot to try to make sure she spoke up for us in our cause during her race. And it was good to see that she had a strong showing, even over some long-term incumbent candidates. And she was able to beat them out as far as getting the percentage of the vote. Yeah, but it looks like right now Richie Torres is at the top of that race, and he's also a solid guy and a solid supporter of us from the very beginning.
Good. It's good. As they say, he's a keeper.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, he's definitely ahead in that race, followed by, let me mention follow with him. And I see Samilis Lopez had a strong showing as well. I'm just going to go mention people that I don't even want to mention people that didn't take the time to do something to support us. It don't make no sense. I'm not doing it. This one was a big one because it took out a 30-year incumbent. So Jamal Bowman is right now. He doesn't have the check mark yet, but I don't know how he doesn't. But Jamal Bowman is at 60.7% over Elliot Ingalls' 35.6%.
Well, Elliot was spending time not in New York. He wasn't in New York with his people. Because the city was shut down and he was told to shelter in place, he decided to shelter not in New York. So, if you're not in New York, you can't represent New York.
Well, listen, you won't hear a fight from me on that side because the only one that wore our button during that debate was Jamal Bowman, and looks like he's going to be winning that race. So
I'm happy for him.
And he seems like another one. This one is a strong progressive candidate.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm. Queensborough president.
Yes.
So it looks like, and this one is strange. I'm going to have to look at some other sites, but it only have two names listed. So the two at the top are Donovan Richards at 37% and Elizabeth Crowley at 28%. So right. That's one of the ones that's still pending with the mail-in votes being counted. There were only two candidates in that race that we asked that actually took the stance and wore our button on New York 1, and Elizabeth Costa Constantinides was one of them, and Elizabeth Crowley was the other.
Right. Yeah.
And then the same thing again. We went back to pull up stuff from that hearing. At that time, she was still city council, and she was another one you could see her support. And I mean, that's why it's good to see her name up there, because the people that you see support labor and fight for people, you want to see them do well.
Absolutely. I hope she scrapes up enough mail-in votes to beat out Donovan Richards. Yeah. Not one of our favorites.
I still just don't get that, because
he just completely ignored us. I don't understand that, but okay.
You know what I would write? I could even understand, like, listen, no, I don't think I agree with that. I don't think I agree with your position. I don't agree with your strike. I just can't understand 3 years on strike, fight for you the best, I'm union this, union that, and you don't even bother to acknowledge or respond. That part I can't get with. So you can't.
Troubling.
Yeah. There's a segment on the show that we call the blockers, right?
Yeah.
So then we usually bring up legislation that was like pro-labor, pro-union, that should have gotten passed through. And then we put in, the people in office who've blocked that legislation or voted down or no against it. And it's funny now, because now that we're into it and we go through and do that series, I'm seeing these names popping up. I'm like, I wasn't following this race, so I remember that name. Oh, you're a blocker.
And
So you look at it again and you pull up another name like Wara. Oh, you're a blocker. So I wonder, and listen, as we do this and we keep this show going and we keep doing things like this, I know it's even though New York City is a Democratic city, they still have areas of the city that are Republican, where Republican candidates win. So they
yeah,
only have to go against a primary and a Republican candidate. And once they beat that, the same thing, most likely the polls is going to be that person. But I wonder, because and this is the thing, even in Republican districts, I'm not sure what else they vote for, but you're going to tell me that people in Republican districts aren't union? They don't want affordable health care. They don't want to see our city progress as far as living wages. I think all of us, especially people that are union members, all want that same thing.
yes,
So if you
yes.
start pointing out all these people who are blocking the things that you want, I wonder if they're going to start to look and say, okay, why am I going to vote for, like you said, support the people that support you? Go ahead.
I don't think they all know this. I think somehow they're not seeing the truth. If they were seeing that these people are really blocking stuff that's in their best interest, they would probably rethink that person.
And you know what? Because I wouldn't have thought it either. Only reason, like I said, the only reason I even know these names now is because we're doing the show. And every show you see the same names pop up, and I remember the name now. And if I remember the name and associate them with a blocker, now I'm like, wait a minute. Why am
Yeah,
I hope it's things like that they can start to get maybe some of these people knocked out. Because when we're talking about supporting people and eliminating the ones that are in our way, these people are the ones that are in our way.
yeah, they absolutely are in our way. We need to get rid of them. We need to in, enlighten our Union Republican brothers.
And you know what? We got between now and November to hype to me, like to follow this and get this show up to grade on exactly who these people are and what's going on. Why? I understand you support Republican because they're supposed to support a specific value. But if it's say one value out of 20 things you want and they give you that one and the other 20 they're blocking you from getting, how important is that one thing? I don't know.
Right.
We're gonna see. We're gonna see.
Definitely.
All right. I mean, that was it. We got a quick recap. I just want to also like give major thanks to we did already some on Twitter, but all the candidates who supported us during those primaries by wearing our buttons during the show, taking a stance. You went into basically enemy territory and said that you support the team. You went into, Cowboy Stadium wearing the Giants jersey. So
Right. Button on your shoulder. They tried to hide it. They tried to hide it the best way they could, but that's all. We saw it, and we
yeah,
appreciate it.
I like to see that. I like to see people willing to do the uncomfortable in order to, to make a stance to support what they say they support. Because at least I know if you're willing to do that, you're gonna be willing to do the uncomfortable and fight for the things that need to get fight for to help the people you in your constituency. So definitely wanna say thank you again to all those people who helped us out with that. But now, I mean, this is good. I mean, I feel like I'm getting all into it. Now it's good to start watching these people and start calling them out and pointing out some of these stuff and some of these names that people don't realize are actually being a hindrance to us and blocking our progression going forward. So we'll see what happens. So now next upcoming, we have an interview we did with a couple of the solar workers that were fired for trying to organize one of the solar companies here in New York. I think it's called Bright Power. And we spoke with them about their situation and what was happening with them. So now let's go into them and what happened with their story.
All right, great. That's it.
I'm here with Chris and Pedro, both workers from Bright Power that were let go once they tried to actually organize and put a union in place for the solar company that we're working for. Thanks for coming on the show, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, so first I wanted to start off and just ask you guys, what actually started this? What made you guys want to unionize?
Yeah, I mean, we've been working there a while and had some prevailing wage jobs and things were going pretty well. And then in the fall of 2018, there was a major accident. One of our coworkers, Neville, was injured in like totally avoidable circumstances during a wire pull up like 8 stories. A bunch of like 250 or 500 MCM wire fell on them. And there's like no accountability at the corporate level to deal with it, or like no managers actually took responsibility. And there's another safety incident in the winter of 2019, I think, right, Pedro? Yeah, last year, winter 2019. And then during that time, we were just like, there was safety problems. Folks weren't getting paid enough. Some folks are making like $1.50 over minimum wage doing physical labor.
Wow.
And there's like total lack of respect at the workplace. We started organizing.
How long were you guys there for?
So I was there a little before Chris. I was there for, I think, about 2 years in total. Maybe 2 years and 3 months, actually, now that I think about it.
All right. And then Chris, you were there for somewhere around 2 then?
Yeah, like maybe even a year and a half, somewhere between a year and a half and 2. Before, we got let go last December.
All right, so then you see the mistreatment in the workplace, you were getting disrespected. So then the first thought was to try to form a union. What steps did you take from that point? What steered you towards that direction?
So I was asking around friends or organizers and got in touch with this guy, Mike, from Local 3. And he started having a meeting, like we had a meeting real early on with a couple of guys. And then started like just at the job site talking to folks, had pledge cards, a little bit folks getting signed. And then we had a first big meeting, and I would say like 2/3 of the crew came, and there was like unanimous support.
Wow.
Folks were fierce. I think there's like a little bit of like, oh, maybe we'll like try and get some pledge cards signed the next little bit. And everyone's like, no, everyone will sign the cards. Who's not here today will get their signatures tomorrow.
Wow.
And so then we pretty quickly signed the pledge cards. They wrote out an anti-campaign. Before the vote, they like came to the job sites, intimidated folks, tried to like tell us we didn't know what was right for us. We weren't,
Right, because that was going to be the next question. So you get the whispers of a union is coming to the job, and now the company hears about it. Now the question is, what is their reaction? What do they do?
I mean, to me, it felt kind of like a nervous reaction, kind of a jittery reaction, and then it started kind of morphing into a more of an aggressive reaction. So like they started coming on site more. They started trying to pull us to the side and talk to us about things not like directly job related. More like they were, every other sentence was like, well, I can't tell you what to do or how to vote or how to think, but let me do it anyway, in my own little way. And they started pulling us off site, even having us come down into the office. And basically it was a propaganda attempt, right? Like a bunch of propaganda, a bunch of talking points, a bunch of things that they had prepared that they knew was legal enough, that they could say and not be, pinched on that. But it was I guess the main thing to say on that was a big contrast, because everything was always about production up until that point. They would never it was like pulling teeth to get us off the site to get OSHA. Right, OSHA 30. Mm-hmm. They was complaining about that. It was like, oh wow, I can't believe this is gonna take so much time off production and this and that. But then when it came time to try to propagandize us, we all good. Come on in, we got donuts or whatever it is. So, Chris,
sounds like a familiar story.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, so now they start their campaign, and this is some of the things where the entire city has an issue, and unions in general, is because the laws that are put in place don't really benefit us, and there's no penalty for the employers trying to go after and try to do stuff like hold these closed door meetings and try to coerce the workers once they get caught for it. I know that this got picked up, and then your story was big enough where Vice picked it up. How did that happen, and what happened when they got involved in that story?
So we had been negotiating, we like won the vote with 80% or something like that. There was strong unity. Folks were fierce. After 6 months of negotiation, the company was just totally stonewalling. They hired Littler Mendelsohn, which is like a major anti-union law firm. So they were clearly just uninterested in negotiating. So we had started reaching out to media sources, trying to build up a campaign. And I had set up an interview with someone from Vice. Pedro had talked to this woman, Lauren Gurley, like 3 days before we all got let go. And then my interview happened to be scheduled for the day we all let go. We all get fired. So I just text her, it's like, oh, can we wait an hour? We all just got fired. Sure, she was psyched, you know, she's like, oh, hell yeah, this story is going to be good.
Right.
And then so she wrote a story, you know, and was real excited, like reached out, did a like thorough, strong story, and it dropped within a few days after we got let go. And then it just really like, at that point, hit a nerve. And it, like, so yeah, so the story got going, like what was happening, Pedro? Like Bernie Sanders, AOC,
There was so
tweeted
much
about
happened.
it.
So many people reacted from so many different perspectives, but the totality of it was not positive for that company. You know, like it was a lot of it only took people a second to look into it, to read into it, and be like, nah, this doesn't seem right. You know, something is up here.
Mhm.
And it was that was a crazy impact. I think when that article dropped, that's what really broke it. That's what really like snapped them, and it was just like, okay, they were just like needed to get out of the situation now, because like they were, I don't know, like I don't have numbers in front of me. It can't be good for business. That's what
Yeah,
I'm
no.
saying. Like, you got Bernie Sanders, AOC, Elizabeth Warren tweeting about you. You know, you got a whole bunch of people just putting negative media attention on you as a business. You know, I don't know what business would like that. So.
And that's two great things that I think really helped y'all, because one, if you're not a straight monopoly, there's other solar providers. If you have a company that can have bad press and cares about that bad press, it looks bad. And then to have the backing of people that have a loud microphone supporting you and speaking out against it, where people actually know what's going on, that including Vice is a big platform, that definitely like puts you guys in the right space at the right time to get the attention that you guys needed.
It was crazy the way it all lined up. I'm sorry, Troy. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, it was crazy the way Chris said it. Like it all lined up almost like right on time. Like we got fired, but that day the Vice article was about to come out. You know, it's crazy to me. But
Yeah.
Almost like it was meant to be.
Yeah.
So now you go through the Vice article, you just got terminated, the attention is on it, but now the talks go where? You're still out of work at this point. Did anything change at this point?
So there was 2 more negotiations after that, like after the article and after our termination and everything. Ray from the union was there. Chris Erickson, who is the lead business agent, came to the last 2 negotiations, and you know he's like a fierce negotiator. The CEO of the company, Bright Power, Jeff Pearlman, came to negotiations. Hadn't been there. It was like a much more stressful, like high tension environment, and we were trying to negotiate if there's some way to take us back, if there's some sort of agreement, if they would, you know, sign something. And the company was really unwilling to take us back and wanted to sign some sort of PR agreement that was like, we agree to occasionally probably contract with Local 3, maybe.
Right.
Like they wanted some like good PR. They were hungry for it, and they like Jeff Pearlman, the CEO, almost started crying. Like literally, there's nothing wrong with crying, but like it's not the place for it. Just like when he found out he wasn't going to get that. And so we had, ultimately what happened was there was an agreement reached where the Bright Power agreed to contract like $1 million, I believe, of work through like Local 3 contractors. And that they're gonna no longer have in-house construction. They have to subcontract everything, so that'll be some Local 3 stuff. And we were able to negotiate a severance package for the whole crew that was stronger than we would have got otherwise, I would say. But yeah, and then we sort of, folks moved on, and now most folks are working with Local 3, or like me and Pedro are both in the process. The COVID has really put a halt on that, unfortunately.
Right. So, I mean, and that's one of the problems too. You see a lot of big companies going toward that model where their in-house employees, who really are still their in-house employees and doing the work that they would have them doing, they're reclassifying them and calling them contractors to skate around having to give them employee benefits and pay union and prevailing wages. So that's kind of be a systemic problem that we have to maybe address legislatively, and that's where the politician is going to come into place. But after everything that's happened, so then you work from there, the severance package came in, and you're in the place now, so you moved on. The kind of quick question I have is, do you guys think it was all worth it?
I mean, like I said to Chris, as you know, before we started, it's like I definitely look at it as a win. You know, if you look at them now, they're not doing too well. And you look at us, you know, I think we're better off for it. You know, I think by every metric that you can look at it, you know, I think we did the right thing, definitely. I have no doubt about that.
Right. And now moving forward, as far as, I mean, it's not just you now, because there's people that's going to come behind them and have to work for them. There's older solar companies coming up in the city, and there's just basically an attack on unions in general. What would you guys like to see moving forward happen, not only with the solar industry and what's coming up with renewable energy, but just as the labor movement, you moving forward, and you guys as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think like solar, renewable is a huge industry, and right now there's not really strong union representation or density in that field. And so I think that's just something that like where we encountered shortcomings, I think other companies can try there, and especially since a lot of it is linked to city work. But I'm just excited for like labor organizing to be more and more like led by like rank and file folks. And I think right now also in this moment of like really like reckoning with racism in this country, to like for labor unions to like recognize the role of like working class folks of color too, and like increase the like representation of non-white folks in the unions too, I think could be like an exciting moment right now.
Okay.
And to touch on that, like you said, Troy, earlier, you said something about that's where the politicians come in, you know, and I feel like that could be said right here too, because like, I feel like it would help unions a lot if a lot of these trade deals, you know, that went through didn't go through, right? Instead of shipping out jobs overseas, basically, that's what I'm saying. And like, that's one aspect, you know, that will help every community, including the Black community. You know, like there's a lot of different ways where we can help it. I'm not a politician, but I know there's a lot of things that are obvious right now that we should just stop, you know, doing. And trade deals being one of those.
Right. All right, guys. I mean, I think that was great. What I definitely wanted to do, because I know that was a big story and it came out and it had a lot of attention to it. And then I'm pretty sure the company was happy that it slowly went away and went out of the news cycle. So, but I just want to make sure stories like this don't get forgotten and they get touched on, and we can follow up and see what happened and then address it, because it's not only like what happens with you guys, it's what's happening with the entire labor movement moving forward. And things like this, we have to make sure are addressed, and we can come up with some type of solution that's going to be beneficial, not just for one individual, but or just for unions, but the entire working movement of men and women going forward. So I want to thank you guys for what you did, for standing up and actually trying to, you know, take a stance and even getting fired for it, to try to stand up for what you know was right. We try to work on doing the same thing, and I want to congratulate you guys.
Well, thank you, Troy, for having us.
No problem.
Yeah, thanks so much, Troy, and thanks for what you're doing. And like, y'all been fighting for 3 years. That shit's crazy. Y'all are fierce, man. Yeah, it's impressive.
Who you telling? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So once again, I want to thank you guys for coming on, and we hope to speak to you again soon. All right. So that was the story with the solar workers. So once again, this is another episode of the New Labor Movement Show. I'm one of your hosts, Troy.
I'm Ian.
And we're signing out.